All right, welcome back, everyone, on a wet Wednesday evening, and we are holding at the very top of Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. Tonight's shir is not a typical. It's not a typical type of shir for Masechta Zevachim tonight. We are sponsored in our tour through this Masechta once again by Shalom Fogel, Lila Nishmas Yaakov Zed ben Yehuda Aryeh, and Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam Bas Gad, and Yosef ben Tzim ben Yaakov Zev, and for a great shidduch for Chaya Tzivya Bas Shoshana Gittel, by Baruch Ian, Lila Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba, Esther Bas Yona, Avram ben Shmuel HaKayin, and L'Refua Shalema Feliba Basyania by A.B. Spry, and for the physical, emotional, and spiritual protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel ben Beila Shendel Rivka. We're sponsored by Mark Frankel, co-sponsored by Mark Frankel, Lila Nishmas, his father, Yitzrael Tzvi ben Chaim Yeshua Falik, and also co-sponsored by Berish Kesseman, L'Refua Shalema, for Shoshana Bas Adina. They should have a L'Refua Shalema B'Sech Shecher Yisrael.
I'm having some finger surgery tomorrow, so keep me in mind. Pinchas Menachem ben Leah.
Pinchas Menachem ben Leah, he should have a L'Refua Shalema B'Sech Shecher Yisrael, and always be with us in Gesund.
Barry's in trouble now.
So if you remember, we are establishing that a get that's written stam without a kavanah for a specific husband or wife, even if it's stam, it's no good. So we're looking for a source for that. So the Gemara says, well, the source is because it says, Yeser al Kain, even more than that, cause of the garish is ishtai. If, let's say, Chatzkel decided to divorce his wife, Shprinza, v'nimlach, and he changed his mind, Matzah ben Ira, he found a neighbor of his, Vamalai, and he said, hey, Shmi kishimcha, my name is like your name, v'shem ishti kishem ishtacha, and my wife's name is the same as your wife's name, I happen to need a get, could I use it? Says the Gemara, Apostle Garish by. So you see, even though it was written for the names, but since it was written without specific intent, it's no good. Says the Gemara, well, Dilmashani Hasam, the Intiklei L'Shem Gerishin Dehahu. That's because this is not an example of stam. It was written for one chatzkel and not for another chatzkel. Says the Gemara, Elamaha. Yeser al Kain, even more, Yeshlei Shtei Noshin. If Chatzkel has two wives, would you know it? He married two Shprinzes. Yeshlei Shtei Noshin, Sheshmoiseim Shavas, Kasel the Garish is a Gdaila, if he wrote to divorce the senior Shprinze, Lo Yigarish Ba'esektani, he can't give it to the junior Shprinze. Says the Gemara again, that's different, because that's not stam. Dilma Shani Hasim the Imtiklei L'Shem Gerishin Da'i. He had a mind for Shprinza the senior, not Shprinza the junior. Ella Meha Yisrael Kain Amal Lavler Chatzkel, who had two wives, Shprinza senior and Shprinza junior. He told the scribe, cause of right Shprinza. And I'm not sure which one I want to get rid of. I'll see. They're both making supper. I'll see which one is better. And whoever I want to, I'll divorce. So Apostle the Garish, he says to Gemara, and there he didn't even have a specific shprinz in mind. Says the Gemara, yeah, but there, since he had one of them in mind, Dilma Shani Hasam de Ein Breira, we don't say retroactive clarification. And therefore, it's not like at the time when he decides to give her, it's retroactively clarified, that he had in mind for the right shprinza. That's different than a case of stam. In a case of stam, he didn't have anything that could possibly be not good in mind. But rather here, this is a beferish raya. This is a beferish raya. I made a bracha. Make another bracha. Bracha tari noilein malachilam shakol niya b'dvaro.
Amen. All sprinces are from Shnep Shak, Rabbi?
What do you mean stum? What does he mean stum? He's not thinking about it?
Right. He doesn't have anything in mind. Doesn't have anything in mind. The way a lot of people daven. Don't have anything in mind. Ella says the Gemara Meha. You know, there's something called a boilerplate. And that is that they have documents and they just fill in the blanks. So, can you make a boilerplate for a boilerplate for a get? Now, since Harry Potter, the name Harry is one of the most popular names in London. Since Harry Potter. So, could you put in the get Harry? Just fill it in. Says the Gemara, Ela Meha. HaKoysev Toyse Gittin, if you want to make boilerplate Gittin, you have to leave blank the name of the husband, or Mekayma Isha, the name of the wife, or Mekayma Edim, the name of the witnesses, or Mekayma Azman, the date. You have to leave blank Hariyat Materis L'Kol. Because when you write that you are permitted to all men, you can't write it stam. You have to have it in mind for the specific person. So you see, not having anything in mind by a get is no good. Okay, now remember, we said that you weren't in the Beis Medrash when Rava raised fascinating contradictions. So now the Gemara tells us another contradiction. Su Rami Milsa Achriti. He raised another contradiction. And that is, Mi Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. Did Rabbi Yehuda say in the name of Rav that Chatas Sheshachta L'Shem Oila? We need somebody that's going to do this. Barry. Chatas Sheshachta L'Shem Oila. If Barry shechted a chatas for a burnt offering, now remember, a chatas that shechted Shaloi L'Shma is possible. So chatas Sheshachta L'Shem Oila, he shechted as a burnt offering, psula. Shachta l'shem chulin, if he shechted it for his tailgate party, for the Giants game, that's ksheira. Interesting. So he shechts it for an oila, it's puzzle. But if he shechts it for a good barbecue, it's kosher. Alma, what can we infer from that? Alma demina machriba. If he has in mind for another type of kachim, that ruins it. The lavmina, if he has in mind for something that's not in the same classification, he has in mind for a tailgate party, that is not machriv. The lavmina, if it's not inside, loy machriba. But Ramini asks the Gemara, Kol get shenichtav sheloi l'shum isha puzzle. Any get that's not written for a woman is puzzle. It's not written for the wife. It's written for the wife of Spinzer, and it was written for Genendel. It's puzzle. Va'afilu l'shem oivedes kechavim nami puzzle. And even if he had in mind for, instead of having in mind for Sprinz, he had in mind for Mary, a Goya, it's also possible. Why? Why don't we say Mina Machriv, Shalei Mina is not Machriv? So Genendel is Mina, is a Jew, that should ruin it. But Mary, who's not Mina, should not ruin it. And yet, even if he has in mind for marry, it's possible. Now the answer to this is very simple. The answer to this is that when you have in mind for an oila, that's a chata shaloi lishma. When you have in mind for a tailgate party, that's nothing. And since it's nothing, it becomes like a chatas that you did stam. A chatas that you did stam is kosher. But by a get, if you have a mind for marry, okay, so say it's nothing. But a get that stam is possible. And that's what the Gemara answers. Let's see it inside. Vishani, Rava, we said, answered beautiful answers. Vishani get, you're right. Say that marry is Shalai Mamina and we'll ignore her. Dalai Vedes Kechavim. If we erase marry, so that means when he wrote the get, he didn't have in mind anything. Havale Stama. Ustama apostle. The get that's done stam is possible. Kachim, you're right. You have in mind the tailgate party, it's nothing. So dal chula minayu havale stama. And by kachim we said if you don't have any specific intent, it's good. V'stama kasherim. Now what do you want to ask, Gedalia?
Wasn't it designated as a chatas initially? And now you're shechting and then you're going to serve it as a barbecue when it was designated as a chatas?
You dedicated it as a chatas. Right. But then, you know Marshall, he found out that he's having 40 people for a tailgate party, and he shechted it for the tailgate party.
And that removed any chatas designation from it? It was there originally?
No, of course not. It's kosher.
What do you mean it's kosher? Kosher is what?
It's kosher as a carbon.
You can't serve it at a tailgate party.
No.
What are you going to do with it?
What do you mean? It's going on a mizbeach. You're going to do zrika and everything.
It's kosher as a carbon.
Yeah.
Game, right?
Because it's considered like nothing, and since it's considered like nothing, it's like stam, and stam is kosher.
And the guy gets credit for his chatas.
Yes. He's busy with the tailgate game.
I didn't understand that it was still a chatas.
Yeah, it's still a chatas.
So what's Marshall gonna do now with the tailgate party?
Idiot!
No, it's a chatas, Marshall.
He's going to have Romanian francs. Danny Vogel, we miss you over here. There's a big hole in the shul. Now, okay, you know what? Before I go further, I guess, as I already have 29 Zoomers over here, I really should be a mensch and welcome people in. So Shimon Klein is here, and Saba, and Baruch Ian, and Yaakov Warman, and Reuven Pollack, and Yitzi Fuchs, and Dr. Guy, and Irving Fishbaum, and Yitzi Muller, and Israel Fisher, and Mark Frankel, Shalom Fogel, Shelley Zeitlin, Barry Cement, Marshall Castle, Nachman Chapler, Mo Kushner, Rabbi Kranz, A.B. Spry, Berish, Michael, Danny Vogel, Moshe Lehman, Elia Yaffe, Naftali Jablin, Avram Rezepkowitz, Ilya Shutman, Abe Arbach. You see, when we don't have Aaron Swade isn't here tonight, and we don't have Dr. Block here yet, and we don't have David Helfgott here yet, but we do have in the shul Gedalia Engel and Chaim Kramer and Michal and Reb Rosenberg, and we have Ruben Shannon, and working on a chazaka now, day number 2, we have the one and only Herschel Waldner, and of course we're welcoming everybody over there in TorahAnytime.com land, and Kaloloshin land, and YouTube land. It's wonderful to have all of you as well. So now the Gemara tells us the next stira, the next contradiction. Varama milsa achriti. Rava asked another contradiction. Okay, now I have to give you a little bit of akdama. As you know, a clay cheres, an earthenware vessel, has a unique tumah. The tumah is that if I take a sheretz by a string, a dead sheretz, and I dangle it into the airspace of the earthenware vessel, everything that's in the earthenware vessel becomes tumah, even if the sheretz doesn't touch it. That's the din that an earthenware vessel is mitame me aviroi. Everything in its interior becomes tumah. Now, so here we have a situation. Who would be playing around with earthenware vessels? Barry. So Barry has an earthenware vessel. If he has inside it a chocolate chip cookie, and Yisrael Fisher dangles a sheretz into the interior, even if it doesn't touch the chocolate chip cookie, it becomes tummy. Let's say Barry has inside the vessel a thin, narrow vessel, a second vessel, that he puts the cookie inside that vessel. And that vessel is taller than the earthenware vessel. So it extends upward outside of the mouth of the earthenware vessel. And the cookie is inside that narrow vessel. So then when he dangles the sheretz in the outside vessel, the cookie that's in the inside vessel is protected. Because the pasuk says, "Toich kol asher b'soichai," whatever's inside it, v'loi toich toichai, and not inside of the inside. So if it's inside of a second keli, so then when he dangles the sheretz into the interior of the first keli, that which is in the innermost keli is protected from the tumah. And here's the rub. It's true even if the second keli, the smaller keli, is a metal keli. So you see that even though it's eina mina, even though it's not the same type, it's machriv. It pushes aside and ruins the tumah, or interferes, interposes the tumah. So now let's see that inside. I just gave you a little hakdama, but let's see that inside. Says the Gemara. As I said, this is not classic Zevachim, throwing in Tumah V'Tara over here, just to keep us awake, you know. We don't want Heschel going home and saying, I thought I'm coming for stuff, and this is all boring, you know. So says the Gemara, let's see it inside. You got to keep your thing charged, you know what I mean? If it's not charged, it's no good.
It's not cooperating.
No, you just got to do it overnight.
I did.
You did it, and it's not charged up?
It's a Zevachim Daf thing.
Oh, that's no good.
It fell into disuse.
That's no good. Anyway, so says the Gemara, let's see it inside. V'rama milsachriti, miyam Rabbi Yudam Rav Chatas sheshachtu l'shem oila. A chatas that shechted for an oila, that means its own type, another carbon, psula. Shachtu l'shem chulin ksher, but if it's shechted for the tailgate party, it's kosher. Alma demina machruba, if it's its same type, it ruins it. The loy mina, if it's not the same type, loy machruba. By Vatanya, toichai, if the chocolate chip cookie is in the klei cheres, v'loy toich toichai, but not if it's inside another keli that's sitting inside the klei cheres, and it blocks the tumah from spreading inside the inner keli. V'afilu klei shetef, even if it's metal, it's called klei shetef because you could be toivel it in a mikvah. Even klei shetef matzel. So you see that even if it's not mina, it's not its type, it saves it from the truma. So the Gemara says, well, you know, there's mina and there's mina. basically what the Gemara is teaching us over here now is that, you see, Chulin is tailgate party is completely Shaloi B'mina. It's completely not the same type. But even if the inner keli is metal, that's not considered Shaloi B'mina, because it's still a keli. What would be Shaloi B'mina? A partition, a division. Let's see it inside. Says the Gemara, Vishani, Asu Chulin Eitzel Kachim. The tailgate party, compared to having it in mind, L'Shem Oila, is Kemechitza Eitzel Tana, is like a partition inside a earthenware oven. A partition does not block the tumah, because partition is not the same as a keli. Ma mechitza esil tana, loy mahan yelei klal. The partition doesn't divide. Af chulin esil kachim. So also, if he has a mind for the tailgate party, loy mahan yelei, that doesn't disqualify klal. Now, where do we see this din that a partition does not block the tumah? Ditnan Tanner, an oven, an earthenware oven, shechatzu b'nesar. You divided the interior with boards, oy b'yurias, or with a curtain. V'nimtza sheretz b'makam echad, and the sheretz is on one side of the curtain, or one side of the boards. Hakol tamei, the tumah passes through, because that's shalei b'mina, and shalei b'mina is not machriv, does not disturb the tumah. Kaiveres, now, if you have a wicker basket, she prusa, and this wicker basket has seen better days. There's holes in it. Upkuka bekash, and you stuffed it up with straw. You stuffed up the holes with straw. So now, it serves as a partition, but it's not a viable keli. Umishuleshes la'avaratana, and you lower this basket into the airspace of an oven, since it's not considered a keli, just a partition. Sheretz b'soicha, if the basket has a sheretz in it, it's not mafsik, because a partition is not mafsik. So ataner tamei, the contents of the oven is tamei. Sheretz betaner, if there's a sheretz in the oven, oichlin shebeseicha, food that's inside the basket, since it's a partition, which is not mafsik, tmein. Now Rabbi Eliezer argues on everything. Rabbi Eliezer matar, because Rabbi Eliezer holds that a partition is mafsik. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Eliezer, how do I know that a partition is mafsik? Well, kal v'chaymer, im hitzel b'meis hachomer. If you have, we know that if there's a corpse in a room, lo yaleinu, anything in that room becomes tumah. If there's a partition, however, only the side that has the corpse is tumah. On the other side of the partition, it's not tumah. Now, if a partition, it divides by a mace, which is more chamer, because while a sheretz is only metame until the evening, a mace is metame for 7 days. So, kal v'chaymer, im hitzel b'meis hachamer, if it saves in a case of a more serious tumah of a mace, like tatzel b'klei cheres hakal, amru lai, so they said to him, lai. No, we don't say that. Im hitzel b'meis chamer, that's because shekain chaluka ba'ohalin, because, or shekain cholkin ohalin, because it's normal to divide an oil with partitions. And since it's normal to divide an oil with partitions, therefore it serves as a mechitza, as a division. Tatzel b'klei cheres, should it divide in a klei cheres, Kal, she'ein cholkin b'klei cheres. We don't usually make partitions in a klei cheres. And since you don't usually make partitions in a klei cheres, so therefore it's not mafsik the tum. So that says the Gemara. So you know what? We have pshat that she'ein amina is makriv according to the Rabbanan. Hatei nach l'Rabbanan. L'Rebbe Eliezer, but according to Rebbe Eliezer, who says that a mechitza does block even by a klei cheres. So you see that you see that we say over here by a klei cheres that even if it's klei shetef, even if it's ein amina, it's makriv. So then, ma'ikal meimer, according to Rebbe Eliezer, how are we going to answer this stira? Says, well, Rebbe Eliezer kal v'chaymer kamer. Rebbe Eliezer says that we have this is an exception, and the exception is because of the kal v'chaymer. So the Gemara says, well, let's say a kal v'chaymer by kachim too. If kachim mechal and kachim, if Marshall has in mind when he does the chatas, that's an oila. Even if he has in mind another type of kachim, it ruins it. Chulin, if he has in mind for the tailgate party, like kol shechei. Rather, you'll have to say another pshat. We're back to the drawing board over here. We're going to say another pshat. Why, if you do a chatas l'shem chulin, that it's kosher.
It wasn't enough that they got the Rabbanan, they need to have Rebbe Eliezer also.
Huh?
It wasn't enough that they had the Rabbanan. They had to say, yeah, but we want to fit it into Rebbe Eliezer.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to have, if the reason is because mina machriv, she'ena mina ena machriv, then it would have to be consistent. Rebbe Eliezer would not hold of the whole thing, of mina machriv, she'ena mina ena machriv. Ella, says the Gemara, as we welcome in Dr. Block now for our 30th Zoomer of the evening. And remember, Rabbi said we have a shir tonight, a chumash shir. Those that will be here for Rosh Hashanah do not have to stay for it because I'm going to be saying what I say tonight on Rosh Hashanah. Those are Fairway's persuasion. But if you're not by Fairways, if you're not going to be here for Yom Tov, so then you'll want to hear the shir. It's going to be about Rosh Hashanah. The time of the Rav ki Rebbe Elazar. The reason of Rav is like Rebbe Elazar. The Amar Rebbe Elazar, for Rebbe Elazar says, my time of the Rav, what's the reason that Rav holds that if a chatas is shechted l'shem chulin, that it's kosher? What's the reason? Because the pasuk says, "V'lo yechalu es kotshei b'nei Yisrael, eis asher yorimu la'Hashem." You should not desecrate kotshei b'nei Yisrael with that which you offer to Hashem. How do you desecrate it? You desecrate it by having in mind something else that you offer to Hashem. Kachim, mechalin, and kachim. Only if you have in mind kachim. But the ein chulin, mechalin, and kachim. Says the Gemara, Alma, from this we see that osikra, that the pasuk comes, and apke mikal v'chaymer. The pasuk comes and takes it out of the kal v'chaymer. We have a pasuk, the kal v'chaymer said that if having in mind for kachim is mechalel, so having in mind for chulin should surely be mechalel. But since it says, restricts it to eis asher yorimu la'Hashem, only if you have in mind for another type of kachim, like an oila, but if you have in mind for chulin, it's not. So we see, alma osakra apke mikal v'chaymer. So fact the Gemara, if so, hachanami here too, leisei toichai, let the fact that it says toichai, that only that which is inside, and not toich toichai, let it come and leipke mikal v'chaimer. Let it come and take it out from the kal v'chaimer of Rebbe Eliezer and say that even if there's a partition, it should not be tomei. Because we should say only that which is inside it, toichai, v'loi toich toichai, and not if it's on toich toichai, meaning that if there's a partition. Now, even though we said that we have a kal v'chaimer, that a partition should be, even though, one second, let's say toichai lapke mikal v'chaimer, and say, so toichai tells me, toichai v'loi toich toichai. According to Rebbe Eliezer, we said that a partition is mechalik. So one second. Wow, what a funny question. Wow. What a strange question. Huh. So, okay, so let's get our bearings over here. This is quite an unusual question, according to Rebbe Eliezer. We're saying now over here that the fact that it says v'lo yechalu es kachei b'nei Yisrael eis asher yerimu la'Hashem teaches me that only if you have in mind a chatas l'shem oila, but if you have in mind a chatas l'shem chulin, it's kosher. Even though the Kal V'Chaimer would tell you that if you have in mind for kachim, it's possible, a different kachim is possible. If you have in mind for tailgate parley, it should surely be possible. But the pasuk that says only Eis Asher Yarimu LaHashem comes and takes it out from the Kal V'Chaimer. Alma Osikra Apke Mikal V'Chaimer, and takes it out of its Kal V'Chaimer. Says the Gemara, so Hachanami, but then according to Rebbe Eliezer, remember, Rebbe Eliezer says that a partition also divides a klei cheres. That if there's a partition in the klei cheres, that which is on the other side is tahar, because he learns out a kal v'chaimer from misa, from a mace, madach, a mace. If there's a partition in an oil, the other side is tar, because we say that it's a different room. So and mace is tamei 7 days. So kal v'chaimer over here by a sheretz, which is only tamei ad ha'orev, what's on the other side of the partition is going to be tar. So asks the Gemara.
And we won't need the new answer that we just gave.
Huh?
And we won't need the new answer we just gave, because Rabbi Eliezer will work out with the original answer that we gave. Right?
What new answer?
We had to give this new answer a pasuk.
This pasuk is only for kachim,
Right.
right?
To say why by kachim it doesn't interfere.
Right.
If we didn't have Rabbi Eliezer with his Kavachaymer, we could have stayed with our original teretz that we had in Amar Aleph.
What that mean? A machriv she'ena mean a machriv?
Yeah, because Rabbi Eliezer and his Kavachaymer, we wanted to make.
Yeah, no, but let's see how it fits in the lashon in the Gemara over here. Hachanami says the Gemara. So here too, leisei toichai. Let the drasha of toichai, which is toichai, and not toichai, come and lapke mikal v'chaymer, and take it out from the kal v'chaymer. In other words, the kal v'chaymer tells us that the item is tar. But toichai also tells me the item is tar. So what do you mean lapke mikal v'chaymer? It doesn't take it out from the kal v'chaymer. So 1 second, we have to understand how it fits into the language of the Gemara. 1 second.
We said if you want min she'ena minai, it has to be an oven with a mechitza. But, right? And then we're good. But Rabbi Eliezer holds it. That's also min b'mina. So therefore, we had to come on to a new teretz to make him happy. But
Rabbi Eliezer holds that it's.
Rabbi Eliezer holds.
I can't hold here two people at the same time, please. Rabbi Eliezer holds
that it's min b'mina. Even with a mechitza, it's min b'mina.
correct.
How does he know that from a kal v'chaymer? So if we get rid of the kal v'chaymer, then Rabbi Eliezer will be happy because he'll fit in like the Rabbanan. It's only because he has his kal v'chaymer that he says that. But if the pasuk takes away the kal v'chaymer, then we didn't need to come up with our teretz and our beis. Rabbi Eliezer would be happy. The mechitza is also min b'mina.
No, but then that would be good.
Yeah.
But the Gemara is asking a kasha, not a teretz.
If a pasuk on other days, if a pasuk can take care of a kal v'chaymer, why can't our pasuk take care of Rabbi Eliezer's kal v'chaymer? And then he doesn't have a kal v'chaymer, and then a mechitza and an oven is also min be'ena mina. According to Rabbi Eliezer also, that was our first teretz.
You mean the Gemara is answering, not asking?
The Gemara is asking, well, I could get rid of Rabbi Eliezer's problem because I could take the pasuk and remove his kal v'chaymer. The whole reason why we have to come up with...
No, but that's,
There's two boxes.
that's,
Okay, moment, 1 second.
that would be an answer, not a kasha.
Well, depends how you look at it.
Well, right now, we were holding to try Hatei Nach L'Rabbanan. According to Rabbi Eliezer, what's going to be...
Because he's got a kol v'chomer.
Right.
The Gemara says, well, why don't we take our...
So what you're saying is what the Gemara is doing now is saying an answer.
Well, the Gemara is probably gonna go away from it, though.
No, but let's see if it flows. Elatayim Rav Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer. The reason of Rav is like Rabbi Eliezer. Dama Rabbi Eliezer, my time of the Rav, Yichalu es kach b'nei Yisrael, eis asher yirimu l'Hashem. That the reason why it's not disqualified if it's for a chulin is because the pasuk says only if you have in mind eis asher yirimu l'Hashem. Kachim mechalim kachim, but ve'ein chulin mechalim kachim. Chulin is not going to be mechal kachim. So that's the reason why, if you have in mind and you shech l'shem chatlas l'shem chulin, it's kosher. Alma, now, the Gemara asks.
That's what I said. It's a question.
The Gemara asks. Well, what's going to be the question?
Why'd you have to come up with this new mahalach? I could take the pasuk that I used before, take away Rabbi Eliezer's kol v'chomer, and now Rabbi Eliezer is going to fit in just like the Rabbanan. I didn't need to come up with this new answer. Always I came up with this new answer because I want to make Rabbi Eliezer happy also. But if a pasuk trumps a kol v'chomer, then he should hold like the Rabbanan. Why didn't he take the pasuk and trump his own kol v'chomer? I think that's what the word is asking.
Alma asakra apke mikal v'chaimer. What we're saying is that the pasuk is taking it away from the kal v'chaimer of that if kachim ruins it, surely chulin should ruin it. Hachanami. So here too, leisei toichai. Let the fact that it says toichai and not toich toichai, lapke mikal v'chaimer, let it take it outside of the kal v'chaimer that said that a partition should be mafsik, right? And therefore, you don't have a kasha of here you see she'ena mina machriv, right? She'ena mina machriv because we have the pasuk.
Yeah, because Rabbi Eliezer doesn't have a kol v'chomer because the pasuk trumps the kol v'chomer. The whole reason he said it should.
All right, let's see. You know what? Let's see if what you're saying fits in Rashi. Hachanami leisei toichai kra yiser because that's the extra vav. The darshina the common toichai v'loy toichai. The ka'amrit misvara the loy mamayit el toich keli achar, and it's not mamayit only another keli. Aval mechitza, but a mechitza the lav bas mina, which is not. It's eina mina. Less leili yichruve. Ilav mishum kal v'chomer. If not for the fact that there's a kal v'chomer from mace. Va'amai omrit kal v'chomer. But why do you reckon with the kal v'chomer? Leisei toivchai. Let toivchai come. V'lipkei. And take it out of the kal v'chomer. The maya toichai michlal de toichai. Lo ilam tameh. The mechitza matzeles, if mechitza is matzel, like Rebbe Eliezer wants to say, lama likra limeutei teich teichai, why do I need a pasuk to be mamayit teich teichai? Hash the teichai matzel, teich teichai mibai, v'hai shebe'ever hamechitza teichai hularav. What he's saying is, what Rashi is saying is that according to you, that you say that the pasuk is mitzi. He's saying that the other side of a partition is not toich toichai. Because since it's ein amina is not machriv, so then that's not considered toich toichai. Correct? Then what do you need the pasuk for?
According to Rebbe Eliezer.
Yeah. That's not what you're saying.
That's not what the Gemara is saying. The Gemara is saying if you have a kal v'chomer, that should trump what Rebbe Eliezer.
One second. I don't know. Where was I when I was preparing this? What's going on? Hold on a second. I'm sorry, Rabbi Say. I must have been in the clouds this morning when I was learning. Herschel, this doesn't usually happen. When was the last time this happened?
We got the season right. Tofu sounds like tofu chop. Right time of the year for that.
Yeah, thanks a lot. 1 second. Okay, I'm not comfortable fully with either pshat, but as Gedalia said, the Gemara preempts this whole argument, because the Gemara says that that's not what he uses toichai for. Hai toichai miboile, because he uses the toichai to teach me another din, and that is if, let's say, they take the chocolate chip cookie and they encase it totally in clay and lower it into the oven. And they lower it into the airspace of the oven where the sheretz was also dangling. So I might think that since if the sheretz would touch the cookie coated with clay, it wouldn't become tameh, because the clay is mapsik. So I might think that it's not tameh, even if it's lowered in the airspace, Kamash Malan, that we learn out from Teichai, that even if it's not going to be Tameh when the sheretz touches it, but there's another din, that when you lower a sheretz in the interior, anything that's in that interior is Tameh, and therefore even the cookie coated with the clay is also Tameh. Rabbanan say Hanach lo tzrichei kra. That doesn't need an extra vav of Teichai, because that's understood that anything that's inside is Tameh. Now Rav Yosi bar Ami Rami, Rav Yosi bar Ami also has a contradiction. Shinui kodesh ashinui bailim umishani. He has a stira. We have a different designation of carbon on a different owner, and he answers. Umi Rav. Did Rav say, Chatis sheshachta l'shem chatis kashera? A chatis, let's say, the kohen shechts a chatis for the sake of another chatis. He shechts a chatis of chaylev for the sin of chaylev, and he has in mind a chatis for the sin of dam. So the din is kshera. But l'shem oila psula, if he has in mind that's an oila, it's puzzle. Alma, again, the lav mina machriv ba. If it's not its type, it's machriv. If it's an oila, it's machriv. The mina, but if it's a different type of chatas, loy machriv ba. I v'amarav chatas sheshachta al mi shemechuyev chatas psula. If I shech the chatas, it's Gedalia's chatas, and I have in mind for Chaim's chatas, so that's possible. Al mi shemechuyev oila kshera. But if I shech Gedalia's chatas, and I have in mind Chaim, who's Chayiv and Oila, and I don't have in mind the Oila, but I have in mind for Chaim, who's Chayiv and Oila, it's kosher. So here we see the opposite. Alma de Barmina Machriba. If it's for somebody that's Chayiv the same thing, that ruins it. The Lamina, if it's for something else, loy Machriba. So in the first case, if you had in mind, instead of a Chatas Chaylev, a Chatas Dam, that's good. But if you have in mind an oila, it's no good. So you see, mina is not machriv, and shaleba mina is machriv. Then it says, if you have a chatas and you do it for somebody that's chayiv a chatas, somebody else, that's no good. If you do it for somebody else that's chayiv an oila, it is good. Mashani, so the Gemara says, well, hasam v'shachat oisa l'chatas amarachmana. You shecht it for a chatas. So, as long as you shechted for a chatas, you had in mind a chatas dam instead of a chatas chelev, it's still you fulfill the shachar oisal chatas. Vari chatas l'shem chatas nishchata. Hacha v'chiper alav ksiv. You have to atone for Gedalia. Alav v'lei al chaverai. But when is it that when I have in mind chaverai, it's no good? That's chaverai dum yudididei. It has to be somebody similar to him who's chayiv achatas. Shemechuyev kapara k'moisei. So now the Gemara has one more question. Rav Chaviva Rami. Shinui bailim atoich teichai. He asks, will you have in mind for a different owner on the keli that's inside the keli? Umi amarav chatis shchata al mi shemechuyev psula. If you have in mind somebody else that's chayiv a chatis, it's possible. Al mi shemechuyev oila. But if somebody else that's chayiv an oila k'sheira, so that means mina machriv shaloi b'mina eina machriv. Alman de mina machriv the lab mina loy machriv. But Tanya toichai. If it's inside, v'loy toich toichai, then afilu klei shetef matzah. That even if it's a metal keli, it still is going to block it. it's still going to interfere. But here we said that if Chaim is Chayiv a different carbon, and we have him in mind, it doesn't interfere, and it doesn't disqualify. Mashani, the Gemara says there's actually 4 drushes. It says Toichai twice. So it could have said Toich, and it says Toichai 2 times. So that's 4 drushes. Toich, Toichai, Toich, Toichai. Right? So it's Arba Toichai Ksivei. There's 4 drushes there. It could have said Toich, and it says Toichai, and a second time it could have said Toich, and it says Toichai. So there's 4 drushes. Chad Legufei, that stuff that's inside the Klei Cheres is Tameh. The Chad Legzei Shava, and one is to teach us the Gzei Shava, which we don't mention over here, but there's a Gzei Shava to tell us that the entire ear space of the Klei Cheres becomes Tameh, so that if something's inside the Klei Cheres, even if the sheretz doesn't touch it, or is not even touching the wall of the Klei Cheres, but anything that's inside the interior becomes Tameh. Chad Toichai Shel Zeh v'lei Toichai Shel Acher, that this din, that the entire interior becomes Tameh, is only by an earthenware vessel and not by a metal vessel or a wooden vessel. And Idach is coming to tell me Toichai v'lei Toichai, and it's coming to tell me that this is a special Gzeres HaKosev, that only if it's inside the outer keli, but if it's inside the interior keli, it's safe from Tumah, v'afilu klei shetef matzel. Even if it's in a metal vessel, it's tar. You're right. The normal rule would tell me that she'ena mina would not block it, but we learn out from this extra drasha of toichai and not toichai that what's in the interior vessel is going to be tar. Okay, we'll stop over here, Rabbi Isai. This was a little bit of a difficult piece of Gemara that I told you in the beginning, and I will come back, Emir Hashem, hopefully tomorrow night, and give you a clearer picture of that one little line of Gemara. We're going to have the Chumash here now.